think I hear the hammer.
Silver Star Post 428 out of Waite Park. Please advance the colors of our nation. And salute.
Hope. Right? Hey. Apparent post colors. Post. Two. Left. Face. Post right. Hurt. Forward. Hurt. All right. Hurt. And hold. Order. Arms. Rain. Rest. Dismiss.
Department Sergeant at Arms Ryan Hill. National Security and Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Jim Kellogg. Please advance with the banner for the POW-MIA chair. Uncover, please. Resolution 288, adopted at the 67th National Convention, calls for designating a POW-MIA empty chair at all official meetings of the American Legion as a physical symbol of the thousands of American POW-MIAs still unaccounted for from all wars and conflicts involving the United States of America. Accordingly, at this time, the Sergeant at Arms will place the POW-MIA flag on the empty chair. A reminder for all of us to spare no effort to secure the release of any American prisoners from captivity, the repatriation of the remains of those who died bravely in the defense of liberty, and a full accounting of those missing. Let us rededicate ourselves to this vital endeavor. At this time, we're going to call on Richard Wogg for invocation.
Before we pray, I ask that we take a moment of silence in remembrance of our departed comrades. Almighty God, creator of all that has been, that is, and is still to come, be with us, we pray, as we meet as comrades and friends of the American Legion. Be with us as we meet our commitments as members of this great organization. Guide our hearts and our minds as we work together for you, our God, and our country. Amen.
Amen.
Vice Commander Richard Wogg will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cover. Please join me in the preamble of the American Legion. For God and
Country, we associate ourselves together for the following purposes: to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, to maintain law and order, to foster and perpetuate a 100% Americanism, to preserve the memories and incidents of our associations in the great wars, to inculcate a sense of individual obligation to the community, state, and nation, to combat the hypocrisy of both the classes and the masses, to make right the master of might, to promote peace and goodwill on earth, to safeguard and transmit to posterity the principles of justice, freedom, and democracy, to concentrate and sanctify our comradeship by our devotion to mutual helpfulness.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the 2018 Fall Conference. For some of us in the room, this is day 2. I hope last night you had an opportunity to socialize, have a little fun, maybe go down to the post and have a drink and play some pull tabs, and I'll get myself all excited. I wasn't able to make it down to the post last night, but I was down at the bar with membership director Mike Maxa, and we were drinking beer and talking membership, and after a couple hours of that I found out membership makes me pee. Anyway, get started this morning. We're going to start out with General Chairman of this conference here in Marshall, Jeff Gay.
Morning. Morning. Doggone, it's great to have a ramp up here. Last time I came up here, I stumbled over the steps and about fell over, spilled my coffee, and made a spectacle of myself. This is much better. And yes, membership talks like that do make you pee, yeah. I want to welcome everybody to Marshall again. It's great to have you here. We're all family, so it's nice to have family back in town. If you have any issues or anything like that, please bring them to me, and we'll discuss them and so forth. We did have a little difficulty with 2 of our drivers last night. One, I'm not sure yet whether his wife passed away or not. The other one's got pneumonia. So, but if you have any questions or comments or anything, please contact me. I'll be sitting up there under the stairway. Again, this conference is made for you guys. And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoy the post. Thank you.
All right, at this time we'll call on Marshall Post 113 Commander Kenneth Versable.
He is driving bus.
Oh, you're driving bus. Well, that's a pretty good excuse. Well, don't go too far, Jeff. You're up again. Now, 7th District Commander, Jeff Gay.
He looks familiar.
Did I mention how much I love that ramp? Again, welcome to the conference, both for Ken Versable and myself, as the post commander and as 7th District Commander. We're glad to host it here. We're glad to have all of you here, and I hope you get a lot out of it. But remember, what you get out of this conference, take back and share with everybody else. We need more butts in the seats, and encourage them all to attend more of these sessions, because it's the only way we can get things done and learn things and share. So thank you again for attending. Am I done now? Okay.
All right, at this time we'd like to call on City of Marshall Mayor, the Honorable Robert Burness.
Well, good morning. My name is Bob Burns. I'm mayor of the city of Marshall. I've had the honor of serving as mayor for the past 26 years. As mayor, there's a number of things I do that I don't like to do, but this is one of the things that is pleasant, because it truly is humbling, and it's an honor to welcome a group like this to the city of Marshall. Now, some of you may be familiar with Marshall. Some of you, maybe this is the first time you've been here, so indulge me just a second. I'll tell you just a little bit about Marshall. We're a small community of about 12,500 people, maybe a few more than that. But in Southwest Minnesota, we're a large community, because we are the largest community in Southwest Minnesota. Our daytime population doubles to just over 25,000, because this is the regional center for employment and healthcare and education. So, as well as a number of amenities. So, so I'm thrilled and humbled and honored that we're able to host you here. I know that you have a very full and important agenda, both today and tomorrow morning, and some of you yesterday also. But if you have an opportunity, or if you have an opportunity to stay after your agenda is concluded tomorrow at about lunchtime, you know, do take some time to see our community. And I'll point out just a few things that if I was visiting for the first time, I'd want to see. First off, our downtown district is really a historic and arts district, including that's where the post is at. But we also have a number of arts murals. We have statues, and the center of our downtown is called Memorial Park, which is a memorial to the 9/11 tragedy, and then we are now expanding that beginning this year to a memorial to those who served in all of the world wars. And in fact, Ken Versable, who was introduced earlier, who couldn't be here this morning, he's actually chairing that volunteer fundraising effort, which has been phenomenally successful. So I'd encourage you to see that. That's right in downtown. There's also a number of shops and eating establishments and boutique shops, and you know, there's quite a bit to do. So I encourage you to look around the community, visit the community, and obviously enjoy the hospitality not only in Marshall but here at Southwest Minnesota State University. So let me conclude by just saying it is an honor to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Now it's my pleasure to introduce to you the Chief of Staff for the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, Mike Mahelny.
Well, good morning, fellow Legionnaires. I am from the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I come to you this morning on behalf of Commissioner Shelito, whose time is running short within the department. And I would just like to welcome everyone to their fall convention. We know how important the work is that you do. If you've never heard it, the Commissioner often refers to the Veteran Service Organizations as his board of directors. We take our direction largely from you because you're the ones that have served, that have sacrificed, that know what's best for veterans. So we work for you in the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, and you've always guided us in the right direction, and we appreciate that, and we thank you for the work that you do. I'd like to thank Southwest Minnesota University for hosting this event this morning. Beautiful Marshall. Mayor Burns, I guess he's left already, had another introduction to do this morning across the street, he was telling me. But Commander, Adjutant Tesdall, and members of the senior committee, thank you for having me here. And in just a little bit this morning, I'll give you a briefing of what's going on at the department. As I mentioned, Commissioner Shelito will be leaving us. We all are aware there will be an election, so there'll be a lot of activity going on. But at the end of the day, I can tell you and I can assure you, nothing's really going to change for the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. We all came from the military. We all had several bosses. At the end of the day, our mission is to improve the lives of veterans. That's not going to change no matter who's in charge or who the boss is. Our mission is always the same. So I just want to reassure you with that. Thank you again on behalf of Commissioner Shelito. He's had a good tour, and he knows it's in large part to the support that he's received around the state from organizations such as yours. So thank you, and good morning. Good morning.
Oh, okay. That'll work. Mike on his speaking engagement.
Well, good morning again. So I kind of want to cover a lot of topics. I really want to just give you an overview of what's going on within the department. And I'll start off with the transition. So what's going on right now at the Capitol is the current administration has been given briefings to the two campaign teams for the new governor. They're starting to kind of move themselves out and create space. Both campaigns are getting a lot of briefings. All the agencies have submitted information on kind of what's going on, what do we have on the calendar. We're going through the normal processes of developing our budget. We're going into the next biennium 2021 where we're going to put some policy initiatives and some budget requests forward. And the way these things happen, essentially noon on January 4th, the commissioner will be done. So what will happen is, there's a lot of scenarios that could happen. The new administration could come in and appoint a new commissioner, at which point they've got 45 days from January 4th to confirm that new commissioner in the Senate. They could come in and not appoint a new commissioner, and then what happens is the deputy commissioner will become the interim commissioner. Now, our agency, as you're probably aware, has 2 divisions, and therefore 2 deputy commissioners. It's really up to the administration to decide which of those deputies will fill that void until a commissioner is appointed. The way the process works, it can be a little bit different given the administration, but the Minnesota Management and Budget will open up an area for people to apply for commissioner, and they'll submit essentially a cover letter and a resume, and that's how that process will work from our standpoint. As I just said, it's kind of irrelevant who comes in, because our job is to take care of veterans, and we're going to continue to do that. As we think back, you know, over these last 8 years, there's been a lot of ground gain in the state as far as veterans benefits. You know, we talk at the state level a lot about strategies and what's our strategy and what's our strategic plan, so on and so forth. And you may remember back in 2008, after the Pelini administration turned over the Veterans Health Care Board turned them back into the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, bringing the health care department of the veterans homes back under our purview, a strategic plan was created. That was a 5-year strategic plan going from 2008 to 2013. The end state of that strategic plan was to kind of revamp the buildings, make them viable for the future needs of veterans, and the wave of our aging population. And part of that was to make them CMS certified for a lot of reasons, for reimbursement reasons, for the fact that would kind of up our game and the services that we're providing to our aging veterans. Well, just the end of September, about mid-September, we completed that strategic plan. 5 years after it was written on the books that we would finish. So we've been really working for a large part of this administration on completing that strategic plan. So now Fergus Falls is officially CMS certified, and that was the goal. Now, in between that time, we've had operational goals, and so really those operational goals are designed to have everyone improve the place, improve our operations, learn about and better our process in Medicare A reimbursements and Medicare B and Medicare D, and getting our pharmacy up and running, creating a legal department, really honing what we do. And that's what we've been doing. And we have an operational plan right now that's going to carry us through to next July, so the end of fiscal year 19 for the state. Largely what that consists of is improving our business capabilities, our business operations within the homes. You may have read just recently that Minneapolis Veterans Home was one of the first in the nation to have an internal dental clinic. We've always had to provide or make available, as the rules say, dental capabilities. Now we have an in-house dental clinic. So we're really trying to work on and better the business plan of that, so that residents don't have to leave the home and go outside to receive dental care. They can receive it right in-house. The plan is to get that functioning well and then expand that to the additional homes. So that's one of the things we're working on in our business side of the house. We're working on better bringing people in faster. When we look at the community, if a bed becomes vacant, they can fill that bed within about 2 days. Our turnaround time can be over a week, it can be 10 days. And so that's loss of revenue. That's a veteran out there that could be using our services that's not getting those services. So we're working on admission criteria. We're working on just that whole business operational flow to make things happen faster. So that's been improving. We've been doing a lot of upgrading within our information technology. The state itself they'll tell you they're behind in information technology. So, you know, a couple of years back, all the agencies were kind of doing their own thing, and we created this department called the Minnesota Information and Technology Agency, MNT. And so they've been doing a lot of upgrades for us as well. So that, again, improves billing, it improves just internal operations, and makes things more efficient. Now, we're not always going to just go down the road of efficiency. You know, we understand that effectiveness outweighs efficiency, because that's what we're there to do, is to be effective in what we do. But there's a lot of IT projects. We hope those will all be complete by 2019. Don't know if that'll happen, but that's a goal. We've been working to educate our staff better. So as we've evolved from the board to the healthcare division, we've had to sort of upgrade our training for our providers. That's an ongoing process. Things change all the time in the medical field, just like anywhere else. At the same time, we're fighting, you know, high turnover rates. We have HSTs, human service technicians, as the majority of our staff within the healthcare division, and they're what's their analogous thing in the civilian world? The nursing assistants, CNAs, and there's just a shortage of those nationwide, and there's high turnover. It's a low-paying position with high turnover, and so we've had a lot of issues over the years trying to figure out what's the best staffing model. We've transitioned to 6-2, and we've come back from that, and what we've learned is, and what we've been told by the family councils is, we want stability for our veteran in those homes, and that stability includes knowing who's coming to provide them service every day. So we have moved from a sort of a choppy part-time piecemeal staff in the veterans homes to a more stable staff of full-time folks that you'll recognize year in and year out, day in and day out. Now they gain tenure when they do that, and as they gain tenure and the state processes, they get paid more, it costs us more. But that seems to be the best solution that we have. So costs are not going down, they're increasing. You may have heard that we just received funding for 3 new veterans homes. They'll be new one up the road here shortly in Montevideo. The bonding language essentially gave between $8 and $12 million to these 3 different locations, Bemidji, Montevideo, and Preston. And so what's going on right now, we started immediately June 21st, had our initial meeting with all those communities up in St. Cloud, put a project plan together. The Department of Administration does that for us, and we've been working to get these developed. So what has happened is, we will submit applications April 1st of this year for all 3 locations. The communities had the ability, because they're called the People's Veterans Homes, the communities have had the ability to commit a certain amount of funding, raise donations to apply to the state portion, the state bonding between $8 million and $12 million depending on location. Make that commitment window closed just a couple of weeks ago, and that amount that between the communities and the state has supplied, that is what the designers, Wald received the contract to build the homes. That is what they're going to design 3 new 72-bed facilities to. That, and knowing that we'll get the 65% from the federal government. Now I say that kind of loosely, but we have, I think part of the reason the state decided to go ahead and fund these homes this year is that the list in DC for these state veterans homes was essentially exhausted, meaning the priority group 1 projects all were funded. So any new project, essentially, they're telling us this at the federal VA, that comes on the list this next year will likely get funded. There was an increase in funding for state veterans homes, so the time was now. Just today, after I leave this morning, I'm heading back to Hutchinson. So one of the things going on right now is Wald and our healthcare division and admin and all the people involved, they're touring a lot of different veterans homes in the state and the surrounding states, as well as nursing homes. And they're looking at, you know, how to best design these. One of the problems we had in the past was the VA said you have to build these homes according to CLC standards, which is Community Living Center standards. And all the states at NASDA, and they lobbied for quite some time, all the states said, this is just too expensive, we can do this better, we can do this cheaper, we got to get out of this national thing that you're doing. So in the past year, they changed those standards. There's still things we have to follow within VA guidelines, but the Department of Health of Minnesota is the one who licenses us. So they're the ones that are going to say, yep, this is a certified facility, it meets the criteria to provide nursing home care. So a lot of meetings are occurring right now. The communities are raising money, and then come April 1st, we'll send 3 applications to the federal VA. Anna Galg out there, she's the manager for those applications. She'll receive them, and then they've got time over the summer to kind of shuffle that and figure out who's going to get the money come 1 October. And then as things happen, we'll probably get the word or a phone call early, or the governor's office will, but we'll get an official letter hopefully next January that we have the money, and then they'll continue to build. So those 3 homes are scheduled to open according to the project plan May of 2021, and we'll get those 3 new homes going. We have an authorized bed cap of 1,058 beds for the state of Minnesota. With these 3 new 72-bed homes, we won't meet that cap, but we'll be within single-digit numbers of meeting that cap. So we'll have done everything we can do for the state of Minnesota with the way things lie right now relative to nursing homes. So I can get into a little bit, a lot of this kind of is leading up to budget and budget requests. One of the things we're going to have to do this year, these 3 new homes are going to require about 500 more staff. And again, I told you about the fact that staff costs money. Part of our budget request going into this next biennium will be the first 6 months of operating costs for these 3 new homes. Each new home is going to cost about $5.5 million of state money, because our budget is broken down. 53% of our money comes from the state, and 47% comes from the federal government, reimbursements, other funds. But we're going to add about $5.5 million to each of those 3 facilities. So when we get into funding these ongoing, that's going to be about $17.5 million added to our budget for these 3 new homes. You may have also seen, if you're keeping up with our website, we're getting ready to open our 3rd state veterans home in Duluth up Highway 53. The first sort of soft opening burial or internment will occur on this Veterans Day. And then much like we did in Preston, around the Memorial Day time frame next spring, we'll have kind of the grand opening, and we should have all our staff in place, all our tools in place, etc., to run and operate that veterans home. We still, within statute, have the operation or the authority to build a 4th state veterans home. That still says Redwood County. I'm sorry?
Don't keep saying veterans home.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cemetery. I apologize. We have the authorization to build that 4th cemetery in Redwood County. There's things occurring with that, but what the winds are telling us from federal VA is we wouldn't get the funding for that this year, so that's something we'll ask for in the future. But we're tracking that. Those cemeteries take about 8 personnel to run, and that doesn't include seasonal. So we'll be requesting additional funding for the Duluth. Well, we've already done it for the Duluth Cemetery, but there will be additional funding requests just to keep all the cemeteries running. One of the problems we ran into when we opened the Little Falls Cemetery, that was kind of piecemeal. So we got an initial appropriation for the way the landscape was at the time. And then that cemetery grew and got to where it was operational and functional and the size it needed to be. So we've been offsetting those costs with our appropriations and our cemetery maintenance fund, which we can do for some time. And this year we're going to kind of go back to the table and say, okay, here's the real true cost of running these cemeteries, and here's the budget that they require. So that's something that we'll be putting forward this year as well. The veteran homelessness, that's a big issue in the state and in the nation. The state of Minnesota is making some great progress in that realm. Right now, only Ramsey and Hennepin County are the 2 counties out of the 87 that haven't met the functional 0 And what functional zero means is we have the assets and resources in place so that if someone experiences a point of homelessness, we can immediately get them into the pipeline, we can immediately get them sheltered, get them a voucher if need be, help them, maybe find a new job if that's the issue, but get them housed. So we're getting very close to ending veterans homelessness in the state of Minnesota. And again, when I say ending, I mean functional zero. We know how the spectrum flows. We'll never probably totally end it, but we'll have things in place to take care of it immediately when it occurs. There's about 236 veterans on the registry. We have this registry. That's something we've developed in the last several years. That the continuums of care meet regularly around the state. All providers that deal with that aspect of society, and we know these folks by name. And we work diligently every day to get them housed, and a lot of these folks have very difficult barriers. One of the problems within the Twin Cities right now is there's a 2% vacancy rate for housing options. So even if we have a voucher, or even if we have a veteran that's facing homelessness, there's just not enough places to put them right now, and that's really kind of the problem that they're running into. Dominium is a developer in the Twin Cities, and in a couple of years they will have redeveloped the rest of the housing on Fort Snelling there, and we're working with them to ensure that there's a veteran's preference when that comes about, but that's not helping us today. So we continuously look for solutions for our homeless veterans, and we're making some good progress. To date, we've housed 1,533 previously homeless veterans. SOAR program. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of the SOAR program. We did a pilot program where the SOAR program essentially gets Social Security benefits for folks. The Department of Health and Human Services had a branch. We pulled it over to, or a piece, we created the same template in Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs to help veterans with Social Security benefits. That was a pilot program that is now essentially paying for itself. And so we've got that new branch, if you haven't heard about that. So now in office in St. Paul, we can help veterans not only obtain their veterans benefits that they've earned, but also collectively gain Social Security benefits as well. Now I talked about our budget. So budget's a big thing. I know Peggy's here and was instrumental, and Don Pancake, I think maybe he went back to Texas, I don't know. But there are a lot of people that were instrumental, everyone in this room. A couple of years back, we were facing a pretty significant budget deficit of almost $11 million. And one of the things we were looking at as well, should we maybe try to close the Hastings domiciliary, because the rest of the states are going to an assisted living model. And that was an option we had, because we were facing a significant shortfall. And what that meant was we have a reserve budget. It sits around 10 million, 11 million, might go up to 14 and back down to 9. But we have a reserve. And when we have a budget shortfall, we're saying, okay, we're gonna have to start spending this reserve to where we get down to zero money. So that means, just like this year and just like in the past, we're going to spend down that reserve, and we're going to have to start laying people off. And that's going to affect our operations and the services we provide to veterans. This year, just to maintain what we're doing in 20 and 21, we're going to be asking all collectively for about 21 million additional dollars. 5.4 million of that is to run those first 6 months of those 3 new veterans homes. Then we've got operational costs that are shortages, essentially because, again, we have tenured staff that cost more. They get raises, they get steps. Insurance costs have gone up. COLA has been authorized, and that's a couple of percent. And all told, that puts us at a shortage for all our operations. So we'll be asking for about a $21 million increase going into this biennium, just to maintain what we have. We talk a lot in the committees about, well, how many staff do you have, and how many personnel, and you're increasing this and that. Well, staff numbers and FTE numbers are 2 totally different things. FTE count is how much did you pay for salaries. Staff count is how many people do you have working for us. So we ebb and flow constantly the amount of staff. We have turnover every day, and we bring people in every day. We sit somewhere around right now 1,550 staff throughout the state. Some are full-time, some are part-time. If we don't have full-time staff, what we do is we work people that are part-time that we weren't counting on spending or giving fringe benefits to, for example, that now fall into the category of getting fringe benefits, and then we have to pay them overtime. So that's where our FTE counts go up. So when we get into committee next year and we have these discussions, as we always do, they're going to say, well, what's your FTE count? You guys have increased. Well, in some cases we have increased. We have backfilled positions that have been vacant for quite a long time. Some senior positions, some HST positions, but if hopefully it's been the same for you, but things have gotten quiet. Life has gotten good. It seems that the family councils are happy with the services we're providing. The staff is not operating in the red, and the turnover is somewhat reduced, and the place is functioning well, and everyone's happy, and we think that's a good thing. Again, you know, much of that is due to the support that you give us on our budget. We have a couple of policy initiatives we're going to be putting forward, small, minor things, just because there's nothing huge that's kind of stirred up over the last couple of years. And I know each organization will have their own resolution, and we'll obviously support that where we can. You know, one of the things that's kind of swirling around the state is veterans courts. You know, that's a policy initiative we've put forward. We know that's kind of on the front end of things where life might go bad for veterans if they're not in the pipeline. So that's something that we're going to working on a little bit this year. And then it's just minor things. You know, one of the things they asked us was, hey, don't make life too hard for the next administration, whoever they may be, and let's just, you know, stay low key until they get their feet wet, and then we can put up, you know, perhaps more difficult policy initiatives. But over the last 8 years, we've been so successful with our, you know, with the governor, with our current chairs in the veterans committees and the budget committees, you know, that life is good. So we're here, like I said, to support whatever it is you need us to support, because we work for you, and we're happy to do so. So that's essentially what's going on within the department. There's been, if you haven't met Doug Hughes, he's our new deputy commissioner. He's been here for several years now, but he's deputy commissioner of the Veterans Healthcare side. His resume is really good. He's a 21-year retired veteran, served in special forces, worked for 3M in their pharmaceutical department, worked for several businesses. He used to run the VA community-based nursing care program out of the Minneapolis VA. So he's really got a good handle on how to run nursing homes for veterans. And he's brought in some good staff and continues to bring in some good staff. And then, of course, Brad Lindsay, you know, sharpest guy on the planet in our mind on all veterans benefits. He's got that division's, you know, working exceptionally well. He's winning national awards on things that we're doing here in the state. So life is really good, and we hope that you see it the same way. And if you don't, we're here to listen and to fix it, because that's what we get paid to do. So beyond that, if there's any questions, that's kind of what's going on in the department right now.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
I just have a question. Can you brief us on what's happening with the bridge at the Minneapolis Veterans Home?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I actually had that on my list, and I somehow breezed over it. So the bridge at the Minneapolis home, and I hate to say this, but it has been kind of termed the windmill of St. Cloud. You know what that means. So the bridge is a historic bridge. There's one way into, well, there's two ways in when that bridge works, into Minneapolis Veterans Home. The bridge has been out of service now for years. We received, say again?
2014. It closed down.
2014, yeah. So 4 years are going on now. We received nearly $7 million to fix it. We've invested a little bit of that money to get fixed. The problem is the bridge was built in the late 1800s, and steel was different at that point in time. Initially, nobody wanted to claim the bridge. The Department of Transportation didn't want it. We kind of owned it. Minneapolis, said, well, it's kind of our thing too. They're off of Hiawatha. We know it's a safety issue getting people in and out. If we have an emergency, that bridge has got to be fixed. Right now, it's not rated for, I think it's, I don't know the exact term, but a level 4, heavy fire trucks and those kinds of things coming over that. So part of the reason to fix it way back when was to upgrade it so that it could accommodate emergency vehicles coming in. There was welding that was done. They welded thicker steel, 2014 steel onto 1800 steel, and that just did not work well. Didn't pass inspection. It's a problem. So now, there was a lot of blame going around, people pointing fingers and lawsuits and litigation happening over this bridge that wasn't fixed properly. And so the latest as of yesterday is they said that, well, I think it's the entry spans, the approach spans are not viable. They need to be fixed. And the way the history of this bridge works is I think it was on the west side of the bridge, Minneapolis side, it was built, and it was built with like cobblestone at some point in time. And then later, the other side, the other support span was built under some other construction company several years later. And so those are the approach spans. Well, none of those are viable. So there's discussion going on right now that one of the things that you might have to do is to lift the bridge up, because it's a historical bridge and we can't tear it down. Lift the bridge up, tear out the approach spans, put new approach spans in, and then set the bridge back down. Now, people think that's not going to damage the bridge. I guess the engineers, I'm not an engineer, but perhaps it could. We don't know. The goal is to still have it fixed and open by the summer of, not this next summer, but the following summer of 20, and have it operating. We don't know if it's going to cost more money to do this. I don't have all those details. Our facilities manager, Mike Jandro, would have those specific details. But the bridge is still a problem. It's still not functional. We still have only one way in and one way out of the campus. And since we spend about half our time under snow up here, even if we had an emergency, I mean, in the summertime, it's one thing to drive through the grass to get into the campus if the road is closed down or blocked. But, going through the snow, 3 feet of plowed snow in the wintertime is just not good. So we're on that. Doug Hughes gets updates, just about every week from the Department of Administration, and I bet you they cringe every time we call them and ask for an update. But we're staying on top of it. It's just, it is where it is. But we're working on it to get it fixed.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
Would it be helpful, because we still, the road out here is not cobblestone anymore. The Minnesota Historical Society didn't say that you can't change the road out there. So apparently at some point, for safety reasons, we were able to get modern roadways. Since nobody wants to take ownership of the bridge, and they keep giving it to the Department of Veterans Affairs, saying, not our bridge, it's your bridge. Say, okay, well then let us fix our bridge. What's the likelihood of us talking to our local legislators to put pressure on the Minnesota Department of Historical, the Minnesota Historical Society,
yeah,
to get the bridge off from the endangered list? and let's do the common sense thing. Let's fix a bridge instead of trying to make it out of cobbles. I mean, every other bridges for years have been updated. Why this bridge? They had, they obviously have to be there's a system for taking things off the Historical Society's listing. There's gotta be, especially when it comes to safety, not only of general public, but veterans. There's no way in there other than, like you said, in the wintertime, the fire trucks gotta go through the plowed snow because there's cars that park on that one and only way in there right now. So if we put pressure on our local legislators to go to the Historical Society and actually open this up for discussion with the veterans communities, and let's use common sense. is the department gonna feel bad if we start pushing pressure in that general direction?
I'm pretty sure the department is not gonna feel bad if you start putting pressure in that direction. We, you know, the Historical Society, they have their mission too. You know, one of the things that has occurred since we received the initial funding in 2014 for that bridge is the Historical Society has now kind of been pulled under the umbrella of the Department of Administration, who's generally our general contractor for state activities. So there is thought that that would be helpful, and it hasn't yielded the full effect yet. Yes, sir.
Yeah, why not just build a new bridge next to it, not have to worry about all the historical stuff? Probably cheaper than trying to lift it and redo it.
One of the options.
Well, we've asked, and they just have not let us, I think, go down that road. We said it'd be smarter to bulldoze. I mean, one of the problems is that the Parks Board for Minneapolis owns a portion of the property underneath that would need to be dealt with. You know, we went back to way back when the old soldiers' home gave that property over 100 years ago to the city of Minneapolis. And then the city of Minneapolis has since given it to the Parks Board. So we've reminded them of that through documentation and Department of Administration attorneys, etc., several times. So we own the property underneath the bridge, but approaching that is not our property. The problems we had before, they wanted to fix it during the winter because there was a plant, I forget exactly which plant it was, but there was a plant underneath the bridge that would have been affected during summer construction. So we had to wait till everything froze and died to put cranes down there so we wouldn't affect the plants. And I am not kidding you, because I was there the same day watching the people from the Parks Board take pictures of these plants before construction began, because I wanted to take pictures of these weeds myself. But, you know, so there's all kinds of implications that, you know, we've been fighting through. Why we can't just bulldoze a new road down there? You know, you can move earth, but that would interfere with a trail that goes through there, all these things. So it's got to be a bridge, best we can tell. They won't let us build a new bridge right next to the historic bridge, but that's one of the options we are kind of talking about is, well, if we're not going to fix this and it's going to be all this money and it's still not going to meet the Category 4 weight, you know, limits, turn that into a historical footbridge. Let the people still ride their bikes through there. Let's build a new bridge. So these are options we're exploring, but anything you can do to nudge the Historical Society would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's hard to believe that it's hard to believe that something that should be so simple is so convoluted and gotten crazy. Can you provide a list on that? I suspect it's a long list of all the entities who are obstructing the process of making this bridge a safe way to get to the home. I mean, it's the Historical Society, and I don't know who's in charge of the weeds, but there's, it sounds to me like there must be at least 6 different entities that are blocking progress here. Is there any way I can get that list of who's all opposing progress?
Well, we could certainly put a list together, and I would probably phrase it a little different of, here's our partners that would collaborate on it.
You're welcome to say it your way, and I'll say it my way. Thank you.
All right.
Jesus.
Any other questions? Well, again, thank you for what you do for us every day. It's a pleasure to serve you. It's a pleasure to work with you. On a personal note, you know, thank you for all the hard work you've done in the past. I am a happy beneficiary of the GI Bill. I'm a happy beneficiary of retirement benefits for veterans. I'm a happy beneficiary of the home loan benefit. And thank you for what you've done, and thank you for what you continue to do.
Thank you, Mike. I was approached this morning by Mr. Ronning. If we were running early, he'd be willing to give his talk on what's going on nationally. And we're about 12, 13 minutes ahead. Marlon, would you like to do that? I should have winked at you or something to give you a forewarning, but Minnesota's National Executive Committee man, Marlon Ronning.
Yeah. Jim, let's go take that weed, move that sucker under the 35W bridge or something. That's not the big hot. There you go.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Past National Commander Ludwig, Candidate Bill, Department Commander Dwayne, Darrell, Legionnaires. They're leaving me. They don't want to listen to me. I don't believe it. All right. Okay, I just returned a week ago from the fall meetings in Indianapolis. We had 27 resolutions that we looked at, and for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through 27, but there's been a lot of activity on social media about a couple of resolutions, and let me see if I can just comment on those and kind of put those to rest. Before I give you some comments on the resolutions, I just want to update your memory on membership in the American Legion. And our membership is determined by Congress through the establishment of specific dates of declared hostilities in which U.S. military personnel were activated. Since its founding in 1919, membership in the American Legion has been open to veterans of World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Lebanon, Grenada, Panama, and Gulf War on terrorism. However, there are at least 12 known combat operations that required an activated military personnel, such as the Cold War, the Libyan conflict, Persian Gulf conflicts, and all of these resulted in about 1,600 U.S. military men and women who served in these time frames came under severe hostilities. Now, the two resolutions that I'm going to comment on, the resolution number 1 is titled Unrecognized Armed Hostilities Recognition. This calls on Congress to declare that the United States has been continuously engaged in a state of war since December 7th, 1941 to the present date. It also calls for Congress to direct the Department of Veterans Affairs to qualify a wartime veteran as any military service personnel who served honorably under Title 10 for at least 1 day since December 7th of 1941 to the present time. Now that's quite a resolution. If that resolution goes through its appropriate paths and goes into some kind of a bill sponsored by some congressman or senator or somebody, and it gets approved, then we could go on to resolution number 2. But if the first one doesn't get approved, the second one is immaterial. Now the second one reads, Unrecognized Armed Hostilities Membership Date Change. This will change membership dates for the American Legion. The resolution will only be put in motion once the actions of Resolution 1 are approved by Congress, once approved, membership in the American Legion will be open to members who served during the following war periods: April 6, 1917 through November 11, 1918, and December 7, 1941 to a date of cessation of armed hostilities as determined by the U.S. government. Now, the American Legion believes that membership in these organizations should be extended to all U.S. military personnel who served on active duty during the hostile events that are not seen as a period of war. But I remind you, we are a wartime chartered congressional organization. To get it law, you take resolutions and then you try to turn them into laws. First, you got to get somebody to sponsor the bill. Then once the bill is assigned to a committee for study, it'll be released by the committee. The bill is put on the calendar. It'll be voted on, debated, amended. The bill goes on. If it's passed, it's got to pass by a simple majority. Then the bill moves to the Senate. In the Senate, the bill is assigned to another committee, and so on and so on and so forth for this bill. I don't put a lot of, don't tell Mr. Ludwig this, but I don't put a lot of stock in something like this going to happen very soon or very quickly. It's got some good points. It's got some points that are against our charter. We are chartered as a wartime veterans organization. Our national commander, Brett Restad, he chose the Team 100 to be the organization's centennial membership theme in celebrating its 100 years of service to community, state, nation. Now, what is Team 100? I'm going to say the word team, and I want you all to say 100. Team
100.
Team
100.
Team
100.
Good. That's exactly what the national commander wants everybody to say. Team 100 refers to the long tradition of American Legionnaires serving their country by advocating for the needs of the veterans, a strong national defense, patriotic youth programs, and Americanism. Whether you're a longtime member or a brand new member of the American Legion family, everybody has spent part in our century of success, and we all have a stake in the future of this organization. As I said, the National Commander's theme is celebrating our legacy, with special emphasis on the theme Organization Centennial. And by centennial, for those of you that don't know, we just completed our 100th convention in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The first one was there in 1919. And next year we will go to Indianapolis for our 100th birthday. So that's our centennial, the last year in this year. The second project of the first project of the National Commander is a new one. It's called the American Legion Service Officers Fund, and this is part of the American Legion Foundation. American Legion Foundation was formed in 1925, and they founded it. They can only give out grants to service officers and temporary financial assistance, which falls under the same thing, only the interest of the funds that they have available. And through the years, that fund has seen a lot of activity. It needs a lot more. We need to train our service officers a lot more, and we need to have funds available for our temporary financial assistance program. So the National Commander has said that he would like to fund the American Legion Children and Veterans Foundation that he's creating underneath the American Legion Foundation for $25 million. It's a big deal, but those that need it, they need a lot of help too. In 1925, they raised 5 million, which back then is probably equivalent to today's money of about 70,000.
70 million.
So, it's doable. It's gonna take a lot of effort. The second of the National Commander's projects is the coin program. You know, there's gonna be 3 coins coming out from the U.S. Mint in March. I'm not sure what they're gonna cost, but one of them is a clad coin. The clad coin is a 50-cent piece, I believe. It's a $50, and the American Legion's legacy to stand up to raise $9 million for the organization's program if this program is sold out. They're only going to reissue so many. They're going to strike 50,000 of the clad coins. They're going to strike 400,000 of the silver dollars, and the other one. Okay, I have it just backwards. We're going to strike 50,000 of the gold coins, $5 gold piece. They're going to strike 400,000 of the silver coins, which is the silver dollar. And they're going to strike 750,000 of the half dollars, which are clad. Now, if they're sold out, and this is going to be open not only to the American Legion, but it's going to be open to souvenir seekers, you name it, and they will get sold out. The American Legion will net roughly $9.5 million from this program. And you can go to the web page, or you can go to usmint.org, and you can actually sign up. I did already, so that I will get notification when they're ready to mint and how much they're going to cost. Just in the round numbers, I'm going to throw out the clad might be somewhere around $20 for that. The silver dollar is probably upwards of 80 to 100, and I'm not sure what the $5 gold piece would be. It could be 200 or 300 or 400 or something like that. Probably less than 500 to buy the whole set. But, again, it's a centennial. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to support your American Legion and get something back from it. I could have went on into what was on those coins, but I'm not going to do that. You know, this Veterans Day coming up, this almost, it commemorates another centennial in our history, the end of World War I. And to remember the end of World War I 100 years ago, and the sacrifice that our veterans went through, the American Legion passed Resolution 107 at our 100th convention in Minneapolis. And that resolution calls for the ringing of the bells of peace. That's campaigned, and the bells of peace calls for the tolling of bells 21 times across our nation on November 11th at 11 o'clock a.m. local time. And this nation-wide program is designed to honor those men and women who served 100 years ago during World War I, especially the 116,516 who died. The war ended by an armistice agreement between the warring countries at 11 a.m. on November 11th, 1918. With that, this will be my last fall conference as your NEC man. As you know, I'm not going to retire. I'm not going away. I'm going to be a mentor or a tutor to somebody. We've got some good people coming in that are candidates to come in. I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity and the honor of representing you as your NEC on the national level and representing Minnesota on the national level. It's been an honor. I'm not done yet because I still got till next August, but this is my last fall conference. God bless each of you. God bless our troops, and may God continue to bless this great country we call America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marlon. Thanks for all your years of service.